welcome to Cosmic Connections. I'm Starlene, back here with Christopher and Faye, and today we are interviewing Kathy Rose. Her website is roseastrology.com. Kathy is going to be one of the speakers at the Cosmic Patterns Astrology Conference that is in March of 2025. All the information will be in the description box, but she is going to be speaking at the conference, and she has lots of wisdom to bring to the table here. She has actually over 40 years of experience as a full-time consulting astrologer, a lecturer, and teacher. She also does intuitive and has a therapeutic approach to astrology consultations. She has regularly published in the Mountain Astrologer. She maintains a YouTube channel and hosts the Maverick Podcast. And she is a frequent lecturer for major organizations such as Edgar Cayce's Association for Research and Enlightenment, ISAR, OPA, and NCGR, and Astrology University and Kepler College. So it's great to have you here, Kathy. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I'm so excited to hear about what you do and what you're going to be sharing at the conference. Is there anything that you'd like to add to what I mentioned about you that maybe I forgot to add about your accomplishments or things that you're really proud of doing?
You know, what I'm proud of is that since 1983, I've been primarily focused on client consultations. So it's boots on the ground, talking directly to clients and gathering a whole lot of research. My theory is that you really don't know astrology until you apply it. And applying it with a client is the very best way to test all of your theories, to find out what works and what doesn't work, and to streamline. You got to talk it. You got to, connect with the client. So and in the past 10 years, I've been doing more teaching, but I still see clients 6 and 7 days a week right now.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, good.
That's great. That's great. Wow. So you really enjoy the client work more than teaching, or just kind of both of it at different times?
Both of it. Yeah, both of it.
Of it.
But you know how it is when you're self-employed, to all the astrologers who are working to do this full time, because I've done it full time since 83. When the business is there, you take it. You jump in, you gobble it up. So right now, I'm booked about 4 months in advance. And I'm happy for the business. I'm very happy for it. And anybody who does this full time, there are very strong years and then there aren't.
Right.
Right.
It's up and down and sideways. And when I started doing astrology, I was 24 years old when I started professionally and had no money at all. And if you didn't get a consult, you didn't eat. So it's been many years of experience and adventure.
So you've also went to Noel Teals master course. And so I'm curious to hear about that. What did you learn in his course?
Mm-hmm. Well, I had already been in practice for a good 20 years by the time I met Noel. And I had a very, very strong intuition to take his master's correspondence course. And it fleshed out some areas that were pivotal in my practice. Noel was really brilliant. And Noel and I had a really great connection. So by the time I finished the course, he made me his assistant to the course and to the seminars he taught. And so then I worked with him as his second in command for about 15 years.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you've gained a lot of experience from taking his course and learning from him. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was his computer tech.
Oh, you were?
Yes.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your work, you've done a lot of writing, working, publishing in the Mountain Astrologer. Is there a specific theme or style or something about astrology that you like to write about? Or is it more like, whatever you feel inspired to at the moment?
Well, I have about 10 books in my head that need to be written if I ever get to them. But as far as the articles in the Mountain Astrologer, I would just end up getting an idea that seemed like it needed to be written, and I would contact them and then they said yes, and I would write it. And mostly the theme is about simplification, simplifying the process, because that's what is central to how I teach astrology. That's central to how I connect in consultations. The more you do it, the more you find that some of the pile of measurements that you gather are not necessary. And so it's almost like you take a spiritual machete and you start chopping away and getting rid of what you don't need. Because if
Right.
you do this full time, you have to be efficient.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So very
That
good.
is important.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can't look at the person's chart for 5 hours and that be something you do. I get it.
There's so much to cover. If you were to cover them all, there's so much. And that can take 5 months or so. But you only have 1 hour for the consultation, and they need to hear something important, not to discuss other things that are not necessary. So that's an excellent procedure, Kathy, and it's a good advice to whoever's listening to us now.
It is really good advice. I think I ended one of my videos, I was sharing about midpoints with the end of it being a David Thoreau quote, simplify, 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 because the video was not simple, but I was kind of being ironic in saying that because, understanding the calculations is a little crazy, but don't get too so far away from that you lose what your focus is. And I think that's important.
Yeah, it's one of the quotes by Einstein, genius is knowing what's important. And being able to see that in the chart and feel that statement. And as a matter of fact, the lecture I'm going to give at the conference sort of flows with that kind of thinking, because I focus on how to look at the tension that's in the horoscope, how to understand the learning dynamic for the soul in this lifetime, the life purpose issues. And you see that through tension. You see that through the strongest dynamic patterns like a T-square or a grand square or even an opposition or a main conjunction. And how to help the client convert that to something that's functional, or how to resolve that tension and learn and develop. I'm very big on the concept that we are not stuck with a chart that limits us. I never want to view the horoscope from a limitation point of view. We're not stuck with that. I think what we're supposed to do is resolve tension and grow and learn and evolve. At least that's my opinion.
That's great. That is what astrologers do to help clients to resolve those challenges that are in the chart and help them, guide them through on how to fight through it, get through it, and make it into a positive energy.
And a really good quote that Noel used to have is, I can change my chart if I change my behavior. And I think that is so accurate. Change my behavior, I change my chart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So your lecture is titled Therapeutic Mantras for Consultations. So can you tell us a little bit, without giving your whole lecture away, but a little bit about what that would entail, or how you come up with these mantras?
The first thing I do in a consultation is look at the natal chart and look at life purpose issues. So what are the life purpose themes in that natal chart? And then we go into the cycles, transits, and solar arcs that are going on. But when you're looking at the natal chart, thinking about life purpose, you're looking for where that soul is trying to develop and heal and resolve and grow. And sometimes when you conceptualize that as a key phrase, you simplify that as a key phrase, a mantra that makes sense to them. For example, if you see a horoscope where there is a theme about needing to learn that they are lovable, where the person needs to learn they are lovable, that they don't have to earn love, that they are lovable simply because they are breathing, and you can see that in the chart very easily if that's an issue. If that's it, then then you develop a mantra that sort of encapsulates that. I am lovable, or it's okay for me to take up space, or I deserve love, or, and it's unique in each situation. I don't plan it ahead of time, but it's through conversation, because I don't do readings, I do consultations. And a consultation is a conversation. And what you discover in that conversation it sort of reveals what a key mantra could be for that client. And when you hit it right, they go, they gasp. When you
Wow.
hit
Yeah.
just the right mantra that helps them to understand the life purpose healing dynamic to resolve the
Wow.
tension in their horoscope. And it's quite magical in the
Wow.
process and how it happens.
And you're going to be teaching this at your lecture.
Yep, I'm going to be going through
Wow.
step by step different patterns in the horoscope and
Wow.
mantras that have worked for clients, based on
Wow.
hemisphere emphasis, based on aspect structures, based
Wow.
on strong sign development. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Very good. Wow, that's really interesting. I'm excited to hear what that lecture is going to entail. So I like the
Yeah.
idea of using a mantra to help work with the energy present, and I agree with you. We're not stuck with one thing in the sense that it has to be negative. We can always make it work for us in a way that's positive, and it's just about the perception, or what,
Yeah.
what you had mentioned, changing your actions and such. So
Yeah, it's amazing what people have been told about astrology, because if I get a client who doesn't know much about astrology, doesn't know much about the spiritual potential or the practice or the deeper layers, but maybe they've Googled part of their chart, or maybe they've watched a podcast here or there, or a forecast, and they come in with this perception of, and it's especially strong with limitation. I have Saturn in the 5th house, so I won't have kids, because they read it on Google.
Oh my God.
Or I have Moon in Capricorn, so it means I'm cold. And I've had clients say that. I have Moon in Capricorn. I'm really upset. I just learned I'm cold.
Oh gosh.
I went, really? You believe that? Well, yeah, because it said it on Google. And there
Yeah.
are still a lot of people who do that. And it's, what my perception of astrology is more, my practice is therapeutic modern humanistic astrology. So it's about evolving and healing rather than absolute prediction and limitation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What you're saying is that is also going on in hospitals. For people, I Googled it. It says here that I have cancer. Why are you telling me I don't? I read it. It's a symptoms of having a cancer. So it's going on with the astrological consultation as well. Knowing very little is, and then use it as your weapon, so to speak. It's very, very dangerous.
Faye, that is an excellent point. It is in medicine. And that's why you see doctors roll their eyes when you say, I've researched my symptoms. Absolutely wonderful point there, because it takes wisdom to synthesize it. And there's always deeper levels than just what you're going to get on the surface level for Google. So these mantras in consultation are very personalized. And again, I can teach the concept, and I can teach patterns and vulnerabilities that show up in the horoscope. And I can teach the concept of listening to the client. And, and sometimes it's you and the client together who come up with a mantra. Sometimes they reveal it by what they've said, and then you repeat it back and they go, oh.
It's like a sudden revelation.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
and although our information age is so awesome, because we have information that we can just learn about that we didn't have the access to, it also makes it a little more challenging when someone does what you were talking about. So it kind of like that's where the professionals
Mhm.
should be able to guide and help. And
Yeah.
a lot of people show me their palm when I tell them I'm an astrologer. Read my palm. And I'm like, oh no, that's not how it works. I have to explain it. But it's a good opportunity to explain something.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, I like the the holistic approach that Kathy's describing. It's, too often you find people that just go after points of a chart instead of, it's just piecework where you're not, if you don't understand the larger picture, for me, you can't even understand the chart, which is what I kind of hear Kathy saying this same thought. And the mantra, this becomes very practical because it's something they can take home. They're not going to remember a fraction of what you tell them in the session. Even if they have the recording and they're going to listen to it, that's fine. But you sort of have to distill it sometimes into a bite-size amount that they can handle and they can take in. And so what I'm hearing from Kathy and the mantra is this is something that's going to stay with them, that in a sense, you're encapsulating the consultation. You're encapsulating where they are right now in time and space with the chart, and you're putting it into this mantra, which they can digest constantly. Just to remember that phrase, you're going to remember things from the consultation. It's a very practical way of really distilling the consultation, but you're distilling it to make it edible, but they take the whole thing in. So it sounds, that sounds really wonderful and a much needed practice for consulting astrologers. It sounds really good. I've taken a ton of notes. So it's like, there were so many things you were saying that to me was really good, because I agree. If you're not dealing with clients, you're guessing. So they become more theories of what you think a chart means than actually what a chart means. Because if you're not talking to the client, you have to find out from them. So that right off gains, for me, that gains a lot of respect, because it's not just a theorist. This is coming from my practice. This is what I find to be true. And then to simplify it. Yeah, you can sound, and some astrologers will do this, you can sound really smart, like all these sort of things and all these aspects, but it's really, the client's not going to take anything from that,
Well,
Right.
one of the things I do in a consultation is I don't use jargon. And that was a classic Noel Till approach. Of course, I didn't use jargon even before I met Noel. So, you can do an entire consultation with no jargon at all.
Right.
You're just giving the bottom line information.
Right.
Sometimes in that process, your mind is working so fast and you are synthesizing so many points of data. And sometimes there's a magical thing that happens where you create like a fabulous sentence, and you've just put 200 bits of information into one sentence, and you go, oh boy, did that feel good. And then the client will go, where did you see that in my chart? You go, I don't know. I saw it in so many places. I couldn't tell you one place I saw it.
Right.
I put it together.
Right.
So certainly, with more exposure to astrology through podcasts and videos and, all the information that's available, people think they know a little bit about astrology, and that when I get that question, where did you see that in my chart? I'll say everywhere.
Right.
Many places.
Right.
Why I have to borrow that one from you.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, because if you slow down the process, if your consultation is, you have Moon in Aries, so you like to be number one.
Oh,
Like, how does that help? How does that help?
yeah, they will try to memorize that, and if they don't remember, they will get back to you. What did you just say?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And when you speak in plain English and you just give the bottom line, and I will tell clients ahead of time, I'm not going to use any jargon. If you get a strong Gemini person, Gemini sun, Mars in Gemini, moon in Gemini, maybe energized by Uranus or something, they'll go, oh, I want the jargon. Well, that's a very different consultation. That's more like a class than a consultation.
Exactly.
And it slows me down. So I'll throw in little bits here and there, enough to keep the Gemini brain handy. But if it gets too much, I'll say maybe we need to schedule a class instead of a consult. It's the same price, but
Right. Oh, that's a good idea because I get that a lot. Because I don't use just those jargon. Oh, where did you see that? And so, yeah, that's a good thing to use. I'm going to steal that from you too.
Yeah.
So
I
during
don't really
in the
use jargon.
session, you're going to be going over sort of a process that you use as far as creating the mandala
Mantras.
for the client.
Mantras.
Yeah, the mantras. I mean, the mantra for the client. Well, that'll be really good. That's a very practical and powerful tool. So that to me sounds really exciting. Very, very interesting just to see how you distill these things, because I know, like for myself, I sort of, in my mind, what I do is I build a story. So for me, when I'm looking at the chart, I have to understand the story, because usually before I even see the client, I want to know why they're coming in. Like, what's the story that's happening? Comparing the natal chart with the transits, with the progressions, just the different things. Like, I need to get, like, what's the story? Sometimes you can find it like really fast. Other times it takes a little more digging. But it's this, for me, it's you have to be holistic about it, because you're right. There was one client I had who was extremely passive, and he had this Mars Uranus transit going on. And of course, you go to the books, they're going to say, oh my God, you got to watch it. You don't want to make decisions. You want to be really careful. Well, this client never could make a decision. So if someone were to tell him that, it's like, it would only panic him, when really, for me, what I was looking at was, this transit is only going to give you the normal ability to make decisions. So it's not something you need to be careful of. It's something you need to use and go with based on the rest of his chart.
Well, but see, if I were in that consultation and I noticed a pattern, or they revealed the pattern, I can't make decisions. I'm terrible at making decisions. Oh my God. I second guess everything. I overthink. I would drill into why can't you make decisions? What's behind that? What's the why behind the what? Maybe there's a lot of Virgo.
It is. It was heavy Virgo.
Which is very different. Sometimes that's a fear of, I'm going to make a mistake. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to look stupid. So, it depends on the situation, but a good one, and I used it all day to day. There are themes in the day that happen when you have many clients per day. You find out, they have similar patterns in their charts.
Yes, I noticed that.
Right? So today was the day where it seemed like all the clients needed to hear, I make great decisions. And I said, perhaps your mantra needs to be, I make great decisions. Because what are you telling yourself currently? And they were telling themselves, I make terrible decisions, or I'm afraid of making a mistake. So maybe you need to tell yourself, I make great decisions. And they lit up. Nobody had ever suggested that they say that to themselves. I make great decisions. And I said, try that on. How does that feel? Then if you strike gold early in the consultation and you find that little phrase that they have lit up and made a difference, you use it 2 or 3 or 4 times in the consultation, because you're drilling it in. Or if you find somebody with a very strong, because I do a lot with hemisphere emphasis, maybe they have a Western hemisphere emphasis, which would be a lot of planets over by the 7th house cusp, or on that side of the chart. And Western hemisphere emphasis people tend to give themselves away and leave themselves behind. They tend to be so oriented to what's going on in the room, what's going on with you, how can I help? Do you need me to volunteer? I'll step in, I'll help. Always kind of reaching out, aware of the room. And sometimes a very simple mantra is, it's okay for me to take up space. because Western Hemisphere emphasis people often need to learn that they can speak up. They can push back. They can take up space. And if, especially for women, it's not as much because men aren't programmed into that as much as women are typically. But I will say, try this one on. How does it feel if I say, it's okay for me to take up space? And you've hit a key concept that works for them. Again, their eyes will light up, their breathing will change, they will have a spark in their energy field. And it's that pivotal moment where you find the balance that they need in their chart sometimes. And that has nothing to do with prediction. That has nothing to do with you will get a job in 2 years. That has something to do with their soul and their soul development.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes with my consultation, I start with conversation. I don't even get a chance to look at the chart for 30 minutes. We already thought. Sometimes you use your common sense and give an advice on what they are doing wrong and guide them through, swing them to a different direction so that their mindset changed much better than what they are focusing on. And then the conversation just go on forward with that. And they are very happy with it.
Yeah. And they came to you for a consultation because they were vibrating to that need.
Right.
They needed that. Everybody, all the astrologers need to figure out, what are they offering? What is their style? What is their brand? What is their approach in astrology? And there are some whose approach is more a reading. I'm going to tell you about your chart and I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. That's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't attract those people because I don't want that and I don't do that. So understanding your style, your brand, what you offer is very important as an astrologer.
Yes.
Yeah. And I can already, you're a very therapeutic. You offer a lot of therapeutic advice, a lot of processes to go through to help heal, which is awesome. I mean, that's, I can appreciate that. It's, too often people can go and they're not going to get the therapy. They're not going to get tangibles that, how do I practice this? How do I help to integrate this into my life? I have the information, but having the information doesn't mean you apply it to your life. It doesn't mean it's like having the medicine, but you don't take it because you don't know you're supposed to take it, So that's really awesome. The therapeutic side, that's really good.
Yeah.
It's my comfort zone. It's what I like.
What you do, you live and breathe it. Everything you've mentioned here is very therapeutic. You always have a therapeutic line.
Yeah.
So it's really good. Yeah. And you're right.
Well,
You got to know your brand. You got to know what you're doing. I mean, you're not going to, obviously, we're going to have a lot of courses there during the conference on, money and handling that. That's it's a different kind of therapy, I guess. But, it's a totally different style of astrology, which is looking at something different, So it's really good.
With the mantra, because it's already stuck in their mind and they are practicing it. And once they get derailed in a little bit, oh no, Kathy said I have to get to this mantra. Let me get back to it. So automatically they get back to what they're supposed to do based on the mantra. So it's very powerful.
Yeah. I have used affirmations my whole life. I have been a practitioner of the concept that you create your reality based on your thinking, based on your belief systems. And affirmations are easy for me. In fact, now I don't call them affirmations so much. I call them declarations because you are declaring, you are declaring something that you are trying to create and bring into your life. And it's command, it's not like the begging sort of prayer, please, 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 angels, whatever it happens to be. It is a declaration. And that's what the mantra does, but it's specific to the client. And again, there can be more than one. I mean, and I've had clients who contact me a year later and say, my God, I said that mantra all year long and I feel such a difference. And if we do another consultation, then a different mantra will come
Yes.
forward if they
Yes.
need it.
Yeah. Sometimes there are multiple issues that they come to you for.
Yes.
And you
As
can
they go
only
through
cover
phases of life.
one mantra at a time in one session.
Mhm.
It's too much to cover, otherwise, and they cannot comprehend what it is that you told them. So
Well, I
another
mean,
session is important.
let's just look at the fact that Uranus is transiting Taurus right now.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
going to move into Gemini next year, but it's in Taurus. And what a total difference of energy. Uranus is about change and spontaneity and fresh air and circulation and getting out of stagnation and adventure.
Usefulness.
And Taurus is about security.
Yeah.
Keep things the same. Solidify.
Not
Don't
moving.
change anything. So you
Not
get Uranus
moving.
and Taurus. Yeah, not moving.
Right. Yeah.
And people who have Taurus planets go, oh my God, this is terrifying.
It's just too
I'm
much.
being pushed to change.
Yeah.
And, it's like, I need more plan, because Taurus and Scorpio tend to pre-grieve change. It's a very interesting thing that fixed signs do. They think about change that's coming, and then they try it on for size and they pre-grieve it. And they'll spend sometimes 6 months to a year on pre-grieving.
Yeah.
Well, 2 years ago, we put our big house where we raised our children, because my husband and I are empty nesters and we downsized, but we put it on the market. Well, I don't particularly like change. I have Taurus rising. I have Mars in Taurus. I'm a Scorpio. Change is not the easiest thing for me. And I pre-grieved that for a year before we sold it.
Wow.
But Uranus came into my chart. But what I was going to mention, this Uranus and Taurus transit for people who are going through change, who are fixed signs, who may be feeling a bit traumatized or a bit unsettled by being asked to go through change. Sometimes I'll just say, maybe you should tell yourself, I am up to the task of handling whatever life brings. I'm able to handle whatever life brings successfully.
I'm unable to face this change.
Yes, successfully.
Successfully. Yeah.
Yes, because, that's what Uranus requires us to learn, is that basic foundation level confidence that, whatever adventure happens in life, I am up to the task of being successful. I can handle it.
Yeah.
Instead of what the fixed signs want is to be prepared, is to plan, is to have the prediction, is to know when it's coming.
Right.
I had a client,
Yeah.
a Taurus client just the other day say, what does my chart say about my father dying? When does my chart say my father will die? And of course, yeah, that answer to that's like, oh. So it's not so much that I was shocked that she asked it, because she had many fixed planets. Uranus is transiting her chart. She's feeling unsettled.
Ready.
I said, why are you asking that question? What's the why behind the what? Why do you want to know? And she goes, I just want to be prepared. I don't want to be caught off guard. And I said, have you had surprises in the past in your life? Yes, many, many, many. Have you handled them successfully? Yes, every single time. Why won't we be successful this next time? I just really want to know. Yeah. And that's more important. The why behind the what is what's important there.
Yeah.
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 Because we
It's
can't predict
really,
when someone's going to die. It's not ethical.
Right.
Not
yeah,
ethical.
that is why the ethics and consulting skills that we ask our students at Avalon is very, very important to take before becoming an astrologer, because it uses that technique. It gives you that, it trains you how to use those technique at the consultation level.
Mhm.
Yeah, the why and the when. Why are you feeling this way? Is there something that you want to share? It's like the compassion on connecting with your client so that they can open up. Otherwise, they're completely closed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That is really good advice. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of asking them, what's the purpose behind the question? Because a lot of times they'll even answer themselves, like you mentioned. I think it's like you can get a deeper understanding, because as we all know, there's so much to look at in the chart and only so much time you have with the client, that if you're not, actively communicating with them, you could just be looking at something totally different than what they want to look at. That's definitely a thing.
Yeah, you are determining how a person is living their chart in the first 10 minutes of the consult. How are you living your chart? What's your reality? And so you ask a few questions. What do you do for a living? Do you have any children? Are you married? And because you're trying to get a sense of their reality and where they are right now. What do you do for a living? What if they say, I just got laid off last month? Well, because I don't ask any questions in advance when I do a consult. I'm totally cold. I don't Google them. I don't ask questions. I'm going in, looking at energies. And two people can have the exact same chart. And one person may say, I just got laid off last week. And another person could say, I just got promoted.
Right.
It's a change happening in career, but you don't know which way it's going to go until you ask the question.
Two different experience. Yeah, the astrology chart will not tell us everything, especially with their current situation in their environment.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
environment.
Asking questions is really good.
Well, and if you're open to the concept of reincarnation, and some people are not, and some people are, we can't prove it. Okay, fine. But it seems to make sense to me. So if I embrace the concept that reincarnation is possible, then I have to embrace the concept that each soul is unique. Not every soul's had the same experiences in their past lives. Not every soul has made the same decision in each lifetime. Yeah, you might have the same chart in this lifetime, but one soul could have made wonderful decisions and learned very quickly. Another soul may not have. So that factors into how they're going to live their life.
Right. Mm-hmm. Even the twins, they are two different humans.
Yes, two different souls with two different soul histories.
Souls that got into each one of them. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that an interesting concept?
Yeah.
It is. Would you say that the type of astrology that you work with is in alignment with the Edgar Cayce way of looking at astrology? So, because when you talked about past lives, that's where my mind went to how he looked at the different planets and the trip. Yeah.
Yeah. One of Edgar Cayce's quotes, and I actually have a meme that I created with that quote, and I use it quite often when I teach there, is oriented to, I don't think I can quote it exactly, but, our soul purpose, our purpose is to evolve as a soul. That is our life purpose, to polish our soul, to evolve, to heal. And the horoscope reflects that, reflects where we are focused on healing and learning, not what we are stuck with. I have Saturn Mercury conjunct in my natal chart. And I can't tell you at how many conferences people have walked around, they look at my chart and they go, oh, you have depression. You want to see depression? You're going to be depressed after I get done telling you I don't have depression. I take it personally that they would automatically think they know how I'm living my chart because of one measurement.
Right. Because of your sun in Scorpio, I think. The 29 degrees.
Yes.
They focus on that immediately. We all tend to gravitate into negative vibrations for some reason.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
Limitation instead of empowerment and possibility. Yeah. And that's been the legacy of astrology. And part of it, I think, is if you go back to the ancients and you look at the lifestyle, the short lifespan they had, the intensity of their life, the lack of medical care and so forth, and the ancients were, of course, they were totally event oriented. They would watch the skies and then they would look for correlations of events in life.
Right.
So this caused that.
And I'm not just doing their calendar. Yeah.
Exactly. But it was kind of a negative orientation. Mars is a malefic. Saturn's a malefic. I've let go of the concept of malefics a long time ago. Now, I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. Maybe maybe I'm just being rebellious, but that concept of malefics and limitation does not make me happy.
Right.
You know?
Well, that is the issue that we're facing now. And why should we go back there? Instead, focus on the positive vibration of it so that you get out of that rut, so to speak.
Well, one of the last things Noel said to me, we had many, many conversations. Noel Till again.
Yeah.
He was a pioneer and he was a maverick, and he came up with many new theories in astrology. And we had many many conversations about this. And he said, oh yeah, when I would present a new theory or a new concept, I took many arrows. People did not automatically embrace it. And there was arguments. They were, nasty letters. There was pushback from the astrological community, because that's what happens when you're a maverick, when you lead the pack, or when you come up with a new concept. But towards the end of his life, he said, Kathy, please keep developing astrology. Keep your mind open. Keep developing new concepts. Keep developing new theories. Let's continue astrology progressing, not staying
Yes.
stuck.
Not stagnant into the old fashioned way, not moving forward.
Well, the old-fashioned way also has a little bit of authority bias. We all have a bit of authority bias, which is we need an authority to tell us in order for us to value the concept.
Mhm.
And the ancients are, they're published. I mean,
Right.
they have so much experience, and so many people over all these years took what they said. Authority
Right.
bias plays a part in it. And you get a new concept by a new theory by a new astrologer. And people
Yes.
go, what authority do you have?
Right.
That's interesting.
Right.
Isn't it?
It is interesting. And then
Yeah.
people almost take it personally sometimes because it's a challenge to their belief or, thought process already. And I think adding on to it and understanding it's not as a continuation is usually the way I like to look at it, So yeah, I understand where that comes from.
And look what you guys are doing in vibrational astrology.
We're
Yeah.
advancing
We're
it. Yes.
progressing astrology very much.
Yes.
Yeah. We are advancing it. It was really stuck on one thing, and now we're advancing it to the higher level.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
It
applaud
needs to
you
be
for that.
done.
And I have great appreciation for what you're doing.
Yeah. And we're finding positive effects. It's even more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the foundation of it is really, really good. It's solid.
Mm-hmm.
But with that foundation, you're going to have to move it forward. Even computers, advanced computers, had a floppy disk, and then that floppy disk, there's 5 in a quarter, it became 3.5, and then it became a CD and became a DVD. Now all those stuff are gone. It's now into files. So we really have to advance it. Vibrational astrology deserves to be advanced into highest level because it works. Just like Noel Teals said, you're gonna have to advance it, then don't get stuck, Kathy. You promise me you move it forward.
That's right.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
Kathy does have, Uranus in the third house, square Jupiter. So it's not like this isn't like basically in her chart. So,
So Christopher, are you using whole sign?
huh?
Are you,
Placidus.
No, I don't think I'm using whole
because I
sign
have
on this
Uranus
one.
in the fourth if I use Placid.
Okay. No, I'm using, what am I using here? Equal, tropical equal
Equal
is what
of
I'm
course.
using. Yeah.
But does it matter? No. What I
Doesn't
have
No.
is a
Doesn't
T square. I have Uranus as the apex of a T square.
Yeah.
That says a lot about.
Well, so
why-
as vibrational astrologers, we'll tend to look at the vibrations more than we'll look at the natal chart, really. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, we go to
so I've already
vibration
looked
7.
over yours. You've got this 37th vibration, which describes you extremely well, and it's extremely strong in your chart, and it just deals with, well, let me see here. I was just looking at it. So, you have a one strong 173, which again, you just have so much creativity in your chart. It's like all over the place, but it's a creative, reflective intelligence. a vibration that embodies an independent and reflective individual deeply engaged in exploring life's mysteries and connections between humanity and higher consciousness. The individual is driven by a need to understand and articulate complex concepts in reliable ways, leveraging their inherent creativity and intelligence. I mean, that kind of sounds like Kathy to me. One of the drives are to pursue deep understanding and specialization in chosen fields, withdraw temporarily from routine to gain a broader perspective, seek integration of personal experiences with broader humanitarian concepts, and the language of affirmations. So
there you go.
It's a 3-planet 1 degree in the 37th, but it's like I just glance over as you're talking to look just to see the different dynamics going on, and there's such a clarity of message. It's very, again, therapeutic in nature and very broad, because you are trying to advance the soul. You're trying to get the soul to learn. And I completely agree with you. I mean, that's what we're here for. That's what the chart shows. That's what we get to take with us. Otherwise, why bother? I mean, why bother?
Well,
why bother learning these lessons if they're meaningless?
Look at her 7 vibrations. She's got Sun Uranus conjunction, trine Mars Pluto conjunction. She's extremely innovative, and she will do anything to get it done and advance its whatever she's learning into the higher level. She will get it done.
Well, and this is why I started the podcast called the Maverick Podcast.
See?
Yes, tell us about that. What is your podcast like?
Well, I've always been a maverick, which is you think outside the box. You're independent. You can't be programmed so much, and free. Yes. And I noticed that a lot of the mavericks also feel very alone sometimes. Because mavericks can be part of a group, but they float in and out as opposed to being integrated in a group because they maintain independence. So I thought to myself, mavericks probably want to talk to each other. So I started the podcast, and I have guests on who have a maverick way about them, who think outside the box, who are creative, who are independent, and we discuss it. And I get emails from people all over the world who go, "My God, thank you for talking about this, because, I just didn't feel understood." Well, you're not supposed to feel understood if you're a maverick, because you're advancing something.
Exactly.
But I applaud people who don't necessarily fit into other people's expectations.
And you enjoy doing this, Kathy?
Oh, yeah, I love doing it. I haven't, in fact, one of my recent podcasts, I had the actress Jane Lynch on, who is very much of a maverick. She's a client of mine. And we talked about her innovative style and her ability as a maverick to get comedy. Her comedic style as an actress is very much her maverick nature, to just be in. And she talked about, you have to be in the present moment. You have to be present. And that's maverickism, if you want to call it that. Uranus energy, which is the key to mavericks, is about being in the moment, being here. All the energy in your field here, all the atoms being present. And then you receive spectacular downloads, instant information, which you don't get if you're thinking about the past or the future.
That's right.
You are doing what you love to do, and that is your inner self. Your 7 vibration is extremely strong, extremely strong. You look at your 7 vibration, those aspects. Sun Uranus and Mars Pluto.
Used to get me in trouble as a kid. I was raised as my mom was a Lutheran Christianity, and we had to go to church as kids, but I was in the pastor's office every week saying, "Why can't I be a pastor? Tell me about this. Tell me about that. Tell me," he would see me coming and go, "Oh God, there she is again." Questioned.
Because you needed to know. You can't stop until you know what things behind it.
It's not automatic obedience. Maverick is not automatically obedient. And right now we're going through the presidential election.
Mhm.
I'm not automatically obedient to any political message. I question everything I hear. Everything.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, Christopher and I did a video and we put it on the same channel of all the president and the vice president's charts. That was interesting to look at. And someone actually gave us a compliment on it saying, oh, thanks for not just putting your bias right in there. But yeah, being open to seeing what the charts tell you, because the charts do speak to you too. So
there's no greater challenge for us as astrologers than to try to look at a political chart.
Yeah.
No greater challenge, because we all have bias. We all have bias. And I think it's virtually impossible not to look through on some level. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
We're going to have to do fact checking. And that's what Kathy likes to do.
Yes.
Well, that's a nice broad mind that picks up on a lot of the little points that collectively mean something. That's what it takes, is instead of just, she's a questioner. So it's like, that's awesome, because then you're going to really look for, and do I think the Scorpio has something to do with that? Yes. It's like, it's there, but it's not just that. It's, it's fascinating. Well, I do think though, for people coming to the conference, she's going to put on a great session. You can already tell people are going to be able to pull away from that with something to do, an actual activity, not just filling the mind with things, but actually, okay, here's a practice you can have, which is really good. I really always appreciate that when I can come away from a session and actually have something I can begin to apply right away. I don't like it when I can't apply it right away. It doesn't mean you can't learn stuff, or you might hear somebody say something that like opens up something in your head, but to be able to take a practice away is really nice. So
that's why we picked this lecture from your list, because it's interactive, it's application, and it's very useful to anyone who, even the beginners who knows basic astrology, will be able to pinpoint which is the most important part in the chart that can create a mantra.
Well, and I think for beginners especially, when they can have a message like that, it helps them, because when you're beginning, you don't know what to do. You're like, you can be all over the board, and it's really hard to get like, okay, what am I attempting to do here? What am I trying to do? And I hear with what Kathy's sharing, I hear that she's giving you a format in which you can begin to really, even with limited astrological knowledge, if you're seeking that mantra, it's really going to help out a lot.
Right.
Even with limited astrological knowledge, it will help a lot.
Yeah. Not just for beginners, for professional astrologers like me. I am eager to learn this so I can create a mantra. I need to apply this, and I need to use this technique to improve my.
Oh, we know you do, Faye. We know you do.
I still want to learn this thing.
Yeah, that'll be very exciting.
Student forever.
Same. I think most astrologers end up being students forever. Ones that want to last and keep learning. I think that comes almost inherent with being an astrologer.
Yeah, it's the mindset of an astrologer, which can be our downfall too, because if we don't polish what we do know and we just continue to pile on more and more and more techniques, there's an issue that can happen there too. More and more measurements. The astrologer's brain is hungry for measurements, hungry for techniques.
Yes. I'm telling all these new students to focus on one technique, master that before you even get into a different one. Otherwise, it's confusing. Your mind is totally confused and you can't put it together. And then you stay away from astrology because it's too difficult.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. You go
Yeah,
into that astrology anxiety of,
yes.
there are, 2,000 measurements in front of me. I don't know what to say.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's too confusing. It's information overload, and our mind cannot process it.
I teach a course for Kepler called the Prediction Practicum, which is really the art of forecasting. And in the first session, we talk about the ethics of prediction. What are the ethics of this?
That's great.
But the course, which is starting in September, it's a 5-week course, is about simplification, really. And how do we communicate these future cycles, the solar arcs and the transits that we're seeing in the client's chart? How do we communicate that positively and effectively without programming a certain thing? And it's really the art form of communication with a client more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not to scare them.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been the recipient of some very negative predictions in my, pathway as an astrologer, especially in the early years when I used to go to famous astrologers so I could watch how they did a consultation. I wanted to observe, how are you doing it? Do I want to do it like you?
Yeah.
And there were many times, I don't know what it was about me that would trigger these male astrologers to think that they could do an absolute declarative negative prediction and get away with it. But they did. Like, you will never get married. You will never have children. Well, I'm married 35 years and I have 2 wonderful children. Another astrologer who said, you will be divorced in a year. And I said, oh, come on. And then he berated me. On and on and on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
yeah,
it was probably something I needed to learn, because you know how we learn by experiencing what we don't like?
Yes.
You go, ooh, I really don't like that. I'm going to steer away from that because you experienced it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
But
Yeah,
so,
it's like it's a potential for learning either way, but it can definitely do harm if the person doesn't realize it like that. They can feel, no, I'm never going to get married. Oh, that's that could bring depression or something. You could,
I have so
especially
many clients who will come in and say, I was told I was going to die when I'm 54 and I'm 50 right now and I'm terrified.
Yep. I've had people tell me stuff like
So
that.
then I go, why did you believe them? Well,
Yeah.
they have all this knowledge. They've studied for years. I don't care. Why did you believe them?
Right.
Yeah.
Why behind the what? Why would you automatically think somebody gets to dictate your life? And they go, oh, I didn't think about that. Well, start thinking about that.
Yeah.
Developing your inner maverick, developing your inner rebel, your own mindset, is part of it. Yeah. But it is unfortunate how many clients I get who have been told a negative prediction.
Yeah.
And it stayed for years, and then you have to reframe it.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you done a class, or have you written anything on the concept of developing your inner maverick?
She has 10 books to write.
10 books to write.
I just think that one of all that you said, that phrase right there, developing your inner maverick, is really good in a world today that is so wanting to take sides, wanting to be fed either this line or that line, and not really see, okay, but what do you actually think? Not which side are you going to believe? It's like, what do you think? It's just, for me, that's a topic, that's a thought that is really needed in this day and age, especially with our internet, with AI now. My Lord, you need to develop that inner maverick more than ever before.
Absolutely.
With the amount, with just that amount of inundation of information.
Yeah.
And yet,
you can't just be agreeable. You have to be factual in this modern age. It's because with the AI, they can create things that are believable. You cannot be agreeable. You have to have an open mind to research.
But I like the term maverick. So you can you can say disagreeable, but that has a negative connotation. Maverick doesn't, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
it's really a good. It's just I just thought it was a really good phrase. So
It's really good. It's a very good title of a book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for mentioning that. I probably need to do a webinar on that.
Yes, very
yeah,
good.
I do. I think that would be really good because it does seem to be something that you embody,
Hmm.
you know.
Mhm.
So, and it's again just the way you've been talking about it, the way you stated that, it just resonated inside me like, oh, that's a really good subject. That would be I think you would do fantastic on something like that.
Well,
Yeah.
Georgia O'Keeffe has a great quote that sort of fits in with this. And it goes, I have already settled it for myself. So all flattery and criticism go down the same drain, and I am free. Because the whole Maverick mentality is about being free from needing somebody's approval,
Right.
Yeah.
free from having to play the rules in order to fit in. I've settled it for myself. So all flattery and criticism go down the same drain, and I am free. I mean, I think that's the basis of the whole
Wow.
Maverick mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's a great quote.
It's really good.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. And your podcast is on YouTube, or is it somewhere else?
It's on YouTube. It's on my website, on my YouTube channel, which is Rose Astrology. It streams on audio only on most of the streaming sessions. I haven't been as active in the past 6 months with my podcast. I'm due to I have an idea for my next one. So, but I did one recently with Jen Zart, the president
President of ESA.
That was the most recent one. She's very much of a maverick. Oh my God. Jen
Oh my
Zart,
God, she is.
she's an innovator. Wow, does she have
Yeah.
a beautiful maverick mind. And she's
Yeah.
going to do great things with Isar.
You can feel her Uranus energy. Oh my God.
Absolutely.
It's so excitable, so happy. I love her.
Yes, I do too. She's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it was great having you on our podcast. So thank you for coming to join us today, Kathy. Everyone that's looking will be able to find your information in the description box. So anyone else have anything else to share before we wrap up?
I would like to invite our viewers to come and learn from Kathy.
Yes, please.
Sign up for the conference. It's going to be a great conference. I love the speakers you've chosen, Faye. And what better place than to be in March in Florida?
Beautiful. Beautiful
Yeah.
time.
Fabulous. Thank you guys for the great conversation today. I appreciate all the interaction. You guys are wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so that wraps up another one, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, bye-bye.